Hi guys. I'm sorry I haven't posted it in a while. I just got very busy, and with everything that was happening, that also occupied my time, and I also fell off course with posting due to everything that was happening. But I'm back now, so this post is going to be all the books I read in 2021. So let's just jump right in. So this video is not 40 minutes long. The first, I read four books in January. The first one is Girling Up by Mayim Bialik. I didn't give that one a rating that much. I think I gave it maybe like 1 or 2 stars, only because I love Mayim Bialik. I've read her other books. I absolutely adore her. She was great on The Big Bang Theory. I watched her new show, Call Me Kat. It's funny. The only reason I didn't give this one a big rating was just because it was kind of like a middle grade, like how-to type of book. But I just wanted to read it because it was one of her ones I haven't read yet before. But that's the only reason. But I do love her. The next one was Find It in Everything by Drew Barrymore. I gave this one 5 stars. This one was like photos and essay, not really essays, but more like she took pictures and she just put them into a book. So it gave me a book to skim, which was good. And I gave that one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. The third one was another Mayim Bialik book. That one was Boring Up. I gave that one about like 2 stars. It is the same thing. I love her. It was just one of those like middle grade how-to type of books, but I hadn't read it, so I just wanted to read it. The last one I read in January, because January was kind of a slow month for me, but the last one I read was Lies That Chelsea Handler Told Me. This one wasn't written specifically by Chelsea Handler. It was written by her friends, her family, and other people who knew her. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. Some chapters that I read written by some people were interesting, and I learned more that I didn't know about her. It wasn't what I expected it to be, but it was interesting thus far. And I gave it 3 stars. I don't know if I mentioned that. But one of the chapters I read that was very interesting that I can remember from it was written by one of her brothers. And it was interesting because I think she has 2 brothers, if I'm not mistaken. One of them, when she was a little girl, one of them died. And it was interesting to me to read because I didn't know that happened, and it was interesting to read it written by her brother, only because the way he detailed it was very, very interesting, because he was older than Chelsea. So what her and her brother went through and what he had to do to help her was very interesting to read. So I thought that was an interesting chapter. There was another interesting one that I read written by Heather McDonald, where when Chelsea had her talk show, how Heather got on the talk show, how she and Chelsea became friends, and how their friendship slowly fizzled out after the talk show ended, and how that whole friendship ended. That was also very interesting to read. There was some stuff I didn't know happened after the TV show, after Chelsea's talk show on E ended. So that was also very interesting to read. If you want to read it, I would recommend reading it just to learn more that you didn't know about her. I did get it from the library. I normally buy all of her books, but this one I didn't know what to expect about it, so that's why I checked it out from the library. But I was satisfied with what I read, and it was an interesting read because it was quick enough for me to finish in like a week, but still, it was just a book I didn't expect to like as much as I thought I would. But I just gave it a 3-star rating only because it was just, not that it wasn't written by her, it was just, there was some stuff that I was just like, okay, that happened, cool. or like, oh, okay, that happened, I didn't know that type of thing. So that's the only reason why I gave it that rating. The first book I read in February was Hello Little Dreamer by Kathie Lee Gifford. This is one of Kathie Lee's children's books. I gave it I didn't really give it a rating only because I like Kathie Lee anyway, but because it was a children's book, it gave me something to skim. I would definitely purchase it when I had my own kids so I could read those books to my kids, because I want them to know what children's books I grew up on, so they could be like, this is what was around when I was growing up. The next one I read was, I didn't actually read that. I'm sorry. Oh no, this one I believe is a children's book. I'm pretty sure. This one was Sisters First by Jenna Bush Hager. This is another one I didn't really give a high rating only because it was a children's book, so it gave me something to skim, but it is a book I would read. It is a children's book I would purchase when I had my own kids, so I could read the same thing. The next one is another one by Kathie Lee Gifford. It's the gift I can give. It's the gift that I can give. I didn't really give this one a rating only because the same thing. It was a children's book. It was a book for me to skim. Another Kathie Lee Gifford book I read was Party Animals. I also didn't give this one a rating that much because it's the same thing. Another one I read was The Legend of Messi McKinney, also by Kathie Lee. And the same thing, so I don't really have to explain because it's the same thing. The next one I read was Teamwork Wins by John Cena. Same type of situation with the Kathie Lee one, only because it was another like kids one that I just wanted to read because I'm trying to read more books, but I like John Cena, so I wanted to see what all of his books were, so that's why I read it. But I would buy it for my own kids. I read a lot of children's books. It's funny. I don't read much of them, but I wanted to see what they were because a lot of people are coming out with them, and I wanted to get a feel for them. The next one was I Am Perfectly Designed by Karamo Brown. Same thing. It was his children's books. I know he came out with his memoir that I haven't read yet, but I do want to read, so that there will probably be a review of his memoir at some point. But that one I didn't really give a rating just because of the same thing. It was his children's books. It was his children's book, and it gave me something to read, and I was able to skim it. The next one I read was Lord Help Me by Emmy. This one was a children's book, but this one, it's interesting to me. The only reason why I thought it was extremely interesting was not only was it a children's book, it was also by Jennifer Lopez's daughter. And this one I gave like 3 stars not because she's Jennifer Lopez's daughter, but because it was just an interesting take on, it was just an interesting children's book and she just wrote it very well. So that was an interesting one to read that I just read. The next one I read, Our Great Big Backyard by Laura Bush and Jen Bush. This was another children's book. The next one I read, Flashlight Night by Elizabeth Hasselbeck. It was another children's book, so I didn't really give it a big rating, but I do like Elizabeth Hasselbeck. I liked her when she was on The View, and I would purchase it when I had my own kids. This next one is This Is How It Starts by Grant Ginder. This one is a novel that I gave 3 stars. I read it in March. It was a very interesting book. I apologize that I can't remember a lot of it, but it was a very interesting book because I read his other one, The People We Hate at Weddings. That was very interesting. I did read that one, so if you want a lighthearted cute book. I would recommend The People We Hate at Weddings because that was very interesting to me. But nevertheless, this was very, very good. It was very interesting. I liked it a lot, and I gave it 3 stars. I'm going to get through this very quickly. The next one I have is A Bright Ray of Darkness by Ethan Hawke. That one I gave 3 stars. That was one of his memoirs. That was very interesting to read. I didn't expect it to be as good as it did. I also rented it from the library, so that was another one that I thought was interesting. The next one, now let's move on to April. Bridget Moynihan came out with a cookbook and with a fashion shoe book. Those I both gave 5 stars each because that was very interesting, and they were also kind of like books I could flip through, so that was interesting. The next one I read was Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett. I gave that one 3 stars. This was his second book to a series that I am blanking on the name of now, but it was very good. I can't think of the first book now, so I do apologize. But the series is quite interesting. It is sci-fi, so I'm not a big sci-fi person, but this one was an interesting sci-fi story. And I also I watch Reagan's videos a lot, so she highly recommended the series, so that's also why I read it. And it was an interesting read, so I am looking forward to reading the third one. That I don't know if the third one is out yet. It might already be out. But the next one I read was in May, and the first one in May was Book 3 of The Land of Stories by Chris Colfer. Now you know I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely love Chris. I love all of his books. I'm currently reading, I just finished the Land of Stories series last month because I needed to catch up on it. 5 out of 5 stars. Amazing. It's a middle grade novel series. I absolutely love it. I'm going to start reading A Tale of Magic, his spin-off prequel to The Land of Stories. But his books are so good. I highly recommend them. They're amazing. It's about a brother and a sister. Their names are Alex and Connor, and then it's amazing. I highly recommend them. If you love Glee or are a fan of Chris Colfer, I just recommend them. They're great books. And the next one I read was Workin' It by RuPaul. This one I didn't really give a rating because it was a children's book. So, I'm sorry, it wasn't a children's book. It was kind of like a flip-through-y how-to type book, so I skimmed it, but it was very good. The next one was Control the Crazy. This one was by Vinny from Jersey Shore. This one I skimmed through because it was okay. I honestly thought it was going to be better than it was, but it was just an okay book. The next one I read was The Showgirl Next Door by Holly Madison. I didn't really give this one a rating, but this one was also just okay. It was another book I could skim through. And I'm sorry, I also skipped another one. Vinny from the Jersey Shore, he also wrote a cookbook. So I gave both of his books 3 stars each. Only because it was a cookbook, so I could just basically skim through it and just read some of the stories. He mentioned Jersey Shore, I think, in the first one. So that part I kind of just read because that was interesting. Other than that, I just skimmed them. But the next one was Too Good to Be True by Madonna. I didn't really give that one a rating because it was just it was kind of another one of those books where I could just skim, so that's why. The next one I read was Get It by Jacqueline Larita. Jacqueline was on The Real Housewives of The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Hers was also another like how-to type of flippy through book, but I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. I would recommend reading it. The next one I read was Little Kids, Big City by Alex McCord and Simon Van Campen. This one I gave 5 stars. It was like a how-to parenting book. It was interesting to read. I skimmed it a little bit because right now I don't have any kids, but it was interesting to read how she raised her 2 boys in New York. When she still lived in New York. So that one was interesting. The next one I read was Dear Edward by Ann Napolitano. I gave this one 3 stars. It was a novel. It was okay. Was it one of my favorites? No, but I saw it all over the place, so I decided to read it. It was okay. That's all I have to say. It was just okay. The next one I read was I Can Make You Hot by Kelly Bensimon. She wrote, she was on The Real Housewives of New York City as well. I gave her book 3 stars as well. It was just a book I could skim through, so that's why I did it. The next one I said was Living in Style by Rachel Zoe. Hers was okay too. I didn't really give hers a rating, but hers was okay. Because it was also a book I could just like flip through because it was like a style type of book. The next one I read was Cody Simpson wrote 2 books. So they were also just like flip through books. So not like flip through, but I like skim them and all that stuff. So I didn't give his ratings. I just skimmed through them. The next one was The Dinner by Herman Koch. I gave this one 3 stars. It was a novel. It was okay. I thought it was going to be a little better than it was. And then after I finished it, I read some of the reviews on Goodreads, and a lot of people did not. There were mixed reviews. Some people liked it. Some people didn't like it all that much. But it was an interesting and okay book. The next one I read a lot of books in May. The next one I read was Austin Mahone's book. I gave his like 5 stars. But it was also a book I flipped through, so that there was that as well. The next one was Failing Up by Leslie Odom Jr. I gave his 5 stars. His was also kind of like a how-to sort of book, but his was okay. The next one I read was The Secrets of My Life by Caitlyn Jenner. That was a memoir. That one was interesting, to say the least. I can't really comment more on it, only because I read it so long ago. I just don't remember a lot of what was in it. I have to check back and look, but it talked about when Caitlyn was married to Kris Jenner at the time, and when Caitlyn Jenner was at the Olympics, and a lot of the stuff he wrote about when he was at the Olympics, and then when he met Kris Jenner, that stuff was very interesting to me. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know about, and I mostly knew everything because of watching the Kardashians and because of it being documented on there. But there was also some stuff I didn't even know happened, so that was very interesting. Now up to June. The next one I read was Full Circle by Andrea Barber. I gave that one 5 stars. She, as probably everybody knows, she played Kimmy Gibbler on Full House. That was her book was very, very interesting. I absolutely loved it. Her book was, she talked a lot about Full House, but she also talked a lot about growing up as a child star on Full House, and then afterwards, which I didn't even know she did, but after Full House ran its 8-season run, she actually quit acting to go back to college, and she didn't. and then she got married and had a baby, and she basically wrote about how she was a stay-at-home mom until she got the call to be on Fuller House, and that's when she went back into acting, when Candace Cameron Bure called her and said, we're redoing Full House, do you want to be on it? So that to me was also very interesting to read. And about when she was in school and then when she was a stay-at-home mom and how she decided to go back into acting to be on Fuller House. That was an interesting story that I read in her book. The next one was, Billie Eilish's book. That one I didn't really give a rating, only because it was like a book I skimmed through. July, I read Shady Baby by Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Reid. That was a children's book, so that one I gave, I didn't really give a rating because I just flipped through it. Sorry, my computer's dying, so I have to get through this quickly. The next one I read was the fourth book in the Land of Stories series by Chris Colfer. That one I gave 5 stars because that was amazing. Now, August I read was The Housewives by Brian Moylan. I gave this one 5 stars. It was not a memoir, but it was like behind-the-scenes biography of the Real Housewives of New York City, of not just New York City, but all the housewives in every single city. That one was very, very interesting. That one I'll probably do a review of, so stay tuned for that. The next one I read was in September, When the Grass is Greener and the Girls Are Pretty by Lauren Weisberger. This one I gave 3 stars. This was very interesting. I haven't read a lot of her books, but this was just interesting when I read it. The next one was Make It Nice by Dorinda Medley. Hers I gave 5 stars. I will do a review of her book. I would do a book review of hers, but I loved it, and there was some stuff that was very interesting, so a book review is to come on hers. The next one I read was The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. Hers was 3 stars. That was okay. That's like, I think, the 3rd book in the Truly Devious series. The next one was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I gave his 3 stars. That was interesting. There was a lot of interesting stuff in it. Some stuff I didn't know about him growing up and his childhood. But there was also some stuff that I already knew about. So it was kind of, okay. The next one I read in September was Come Tumbling Down by Shauna McGuire. This one I gave 4 stars, only because her books like go back and forth for me. Some are okay, some aren't. But it like goes up and down in ratings. October I read Across the Green Grass by Shauna McGuire. This one I gave 3 stars. The next one I read was A Land of Stories, Book 5 by Chris Colfer. This one I gave 5 stars. November, I read My Brave Little Girl by Hilary Duff. This one I gave 5 stars. This was her children's book. This one I absolutely loved. And then I read Tyra's Inside and Out. That was interesting too. That was very good. And now December, I read Yes, My Accent is Real by Kunal Nair. I gave that one 5 stars. I will be doing a review on that, so review to come on his book, but his book was very interesting too. It's about him growing up in New Delhi and then him being on The Big Bang Theory and how he got the call about The Big Bang Theory. So all of that will be in the review. So that is to come. And then the next one I read is Finding It by Valerie Bertinelli. I gave that one 5 stars. That is also a review to come because that was interesting to read. I read Next Level Basic by Stassi Schroeder. I gave that one 5 stars as well. That is another book review to come. Some of it was very interesting. Some of it she talked about Vanderpump Rules. There was so much she talked about in it that there was so much information that I can't put into just one wrap up. That is a separate video, so that is to come too. The next one I read was Sunshine Girl by Julianne Margulies. Hers I gave 5 stars. Hers was very interesting, and I would recommend reading it. There's some stuff I didn't know about, but there was also some stuff I did. She talked about The Good Wife. She talked about what she did in between Good Wife and when it was on hiatus and how she had to get a lot of stuff in. She talked about what it was like raising her kids while she was on The Good Wife and going back and forth between here and LA, between New York and LA. So there was a lot of that in it, but I do highly recommend it. Alrighty, that was all the books I've read in 2021. I am going to be doing some some reviews on some of the books I mentioned, so there will be more videos to come on those. But in the meantime, let me know down below in the comments what books you read in 2021, as I would love to know, and maybe there will be some I would like to read as well. But stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned for book reviews. If I find a book interesting, I will be doing a review of it. I am trying to get back into the swing of things, so there will be a lot more to come. So just stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.